Hey, what's up everyone? James from Junkyard Fox. Thank you so much for joining me, and today we're going to be reviewing this beauty right here. This is the Worktuff Gear Forester, designed by Aurora Borealis knives. Now I have been testing this beauty going on about 7 months, and I've taken it on multiple camping trips, a fishing trip, used it at home, EDC, that kind of stuff. So today we're going to put it to the test. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. Let's get started. So as always, let's go ahead and get the specs out of the way first. Now, once again, this is the Worktuff Gear Forester, designed by Aurora Borealis knives. You can see the Worktuff Gear logo right there, the Aurora Borealis logo right here. Turn it around, you see the Aurora Borealis logo once more, and then it says Forester right at the base of the blade. Now, the overall length of this blade is 8.7 inches. The blade length is 4 inches. Weighing 7 ounces with a thickness of 3.5 millimeters. I'd say that's about 1/8 inch thick right there. 90-degree spine. The blade steel is K340 with the Scandivex grind. This one does have some micarta scales, contoured, very Coke bottle shaped. And it does have some checkering here, some texturing for your hand. Kind of reminds you like the bottom of a Snickers chocolate bar. And this one came with a Kydex sheath. And this is the third Worktuff gear that I have, and their Kydexes are outstanding. I mean, this is some really top-notch stuff. Pops in beautifully. No rattling, no risk of it falling off, and it pops out pretty good. So, great Kydex sheath, great quality. And this is going to run you about 179 bucks right here. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I mentioned that this was micarta. It's actually not. These are G10 scales right here. Now they do have micarta available, different colors on the handles as well, depending on your liking. I'm just so used to saying micarta scales, but these are actually G10. And also, it does come with an attachment for your Kydex sheath, so you can carry it on your belt. I just don't do that because my belt knife is my snake eater, so usually this one rides on my haversack or my pack. That being said, these are the other items that come with the knife. So of course, this is the belt loop to attach to the Kydex sheath right here. A cleaning cloth. A sticker and a patch. And the Allen wrench and screws to connect the belt loop with the Kydex sheath. So obviously, the traditional Puko style design with the Scandi grind and the Coke bottle shaped handle, the size, the dimensions, this is very much going to be a traditional Puko Bushcraft style knife. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, do something extremely radical. You know what you're getting when you get this. So it's definitely going to be for that Bushcraft traditionalist that just likes, the classic Puko style. And because of that Scandivex, you know it's going to do well with wood. So batoning, feather sticking, notching, it's going to do very well. The handle, the contours on the handle just fit my hand really good as well. So, as always, let's start off with a one-stick fire. And this is pine, by the way. I don't have much hardwoods out here. Easy stuff. So the fire's getting nice and hot so we can build a good bed of coals for cooking. Now for the first test, which was a one stick fire, of course this is a Puco, this is a Scandi, this is where it's gonna shine. Of course within reason, within common sense. The pine was a fairly soft wood, it was fairly straightforward so it didn't struggle. Now if I'm trying to baton through a piece of oak or hickory this wide in diameter, of course it's gonna have some trouble. But once again, with a little bit of common sense, your blade's gonna go even farther. Now the next test is gonna be food processing. Now, a Puco isn't necessarily something you associate with, cutting up food and that kind of stuff. But in my opinion, my philosophy, when it comes to a belt knife, it should be able to do all tasks relatively well. Doesn't have to do them exceptional. This is not gonna be the same as, a thin blade such as a Green River, but it should be able to process without you kind of being frustrated. I remember the Mora Garberg was a little frustrating with me. When it came to slicing. It's still doable, but I feel like this one does it a little better because the higher Scandi, it almost works something like a saber, and it's easier for me to control the cuts and make some good slices. So let's put that to the test. I do have a potato here, and we're gonna be making some fish and chips today. So let's get to slicing. Let's see how well I can control this Scandi grind. Check that out. For a Scandi, this works fairly well. Fairly thin slices. And I mean, this is not the first time I cook with this knife. I've made some kebabs with it. I've used it in the kitchen. I've made a green chili stew at home. And it's always worked fairly well. It works better than most Scandis when it comes to slicing. Check that out. Still waiting for our fire to die down to a hot bed of coals so our potatoes don't burn while we're distracted. So while we wait for that, test number 3 is going to be involving game processing. Now, I went fishing this morning and I caught myself this little rainbow trout. He's not gigantic, but he's enough to feed me. He's just about a little bit bigger than the knife in terms of length. But him with some potatoes, that's going to be a good dinner. And like I said, a Puco's not something you normally associate when it comes to skinning or gutting, that kind of stuff. But it should be able to do it just fine. And this blade was able to do it this morning. I was able to zipper up the underbelly of the fish, and I was able to, remove the guts and all that good stuff. Now, one thing I did forget to do earlier is scrape off the scales. Some people have told me you don't have to do that with trout. I was raised like that, so it's kind of hard to beat old habits. So I'm just going to go ahead and descale it like that. And how you do that is just use the 90-degree spine. And you just kind of scrape it off like that. Once again, let me know in the comments, am I overthinking things and trout is not an animal, you need to do this? But check that out. Removing all the little scales. You don't want that getting stuck in your throat when you're eating them. But once again, I may just be paranoid. This is just the way I was taught when I was a kid fishing. We are desert dwellers, so we're not, as well versed as some of you folks around more water than I am. I'm going to use is some of these yucca stalks right here. And I'm just going to carve this out, make it pointy, put the fish through, and that way we can cook it on a stick. So once again, this is yucca. It's a soft wood. It's not going to be any issue for this blade. Super thin slices. Never tried it before. We're about to find out if it works or not. I think we can get this closer. Literally chips. So moment of truth, this guy is fully cooked. We let him cook for about 20-25 minutes around the fire. Now I'm just gonna season them just real quick. So get my blackening. And some seasoned salt. And some black pepper. All right, that's it. And we got to get a move on because we are running out of sunlight. We'll be at sunset in about 15 minutes. So let's get moving. But we got our trout cooked here. And then, of course, we got our chips. So some Bushcraft fish and chips right here. Not too shabby. And check out how thin these chips are. All right, let's taste these out. Let's taste these bad boys. Like potato chips. Like potato chips. This is really good. Far better than I thought they would be. And now let's take a piece of this little rainbow trout. Oh, look how flaky that is. I did get a bone, but it's fine. Oh yeah, really good stuff. That's damn good. Let's get another piece back here. Okay, let's get a piece right here. Oh, it's hot. That's burning my fingers. And let's get a chip to go with it. Bottoms up. Really good. Really good stuff. Look at that, it's just falling apart. Good stuff. Really good. Well, 5 minutes later, and Cuervo and I devoured our small dinner. It wasn't a huge feast by any means, but it was very delicious, surprisingly hearty. So it's amazing how much, you can make a delicious meal out of a little trout. I mean, this guy wasn't even huge, and just a simple potato brought from home, and a campfire and a couple of spices. So, very well, very, very wonderful meal. And I always find it funny when you see these fish bones like this. It reminds me of like old-timey cartoons of alley cats and stuff like that. But anyway, the sun is just about to set up in about 5 minutes, so my final thoughts on the Worktuff Gear Aurora Borealis Forester knife. Now, like I said earlier, I've been testing this out for going on about 8 months at this point, and it has been a wonderful knife. Now, of course, it's a Puko, it's a Scandi, so it's a given that it was going to work well with woodworking, batoning, feather sticking, notching, and it did, of course. But I was pleasantly surprised at other things. Now, to be completely honest, I am not a bushcraft kind of knife guy. I generally tend to focus more on flat grinds like a butcher knife because I live down in the desert. So I'm not doing a lot of the more traditional bushcraft style things with carving kooksas and stuff like that. I generally focus more on hunting, fishing, foraging. So a bushcraft knife with a Scandi generally isn't my style. However, as I mentioned earlier, my philosophy is if you're going to have something as your belt knife, it should be able to do everything competently. It doesn't have to excel at everything, but it should be able to take care of it in a pinch, in an emergency, whatever may happen. So I was surprised how well, not only was this a good woodworker, but it was very good at kitchen work, at camp cooking, even cooking at home, processing game. Now, it's not going to be my main choice when it comes to doing any of those things. I would once again prefer a thinner blade, a flat grind, but I was surprised how well this handled it. This was a surprisingly good slicer, and that goes because it is a higher Scandi than the average Scandi grind knife, and it is a Scandivex, and the Scandivex is going to slice through veggies like onions and potatoes much easier than the traditional Scandi V grind like the Garberg, which I did find the Garberg to be a little bit more of a nuisance when it came to camp cooking, but this one does surprisingly well. Also, the steel. The steel is Bowler K340. That's the first time that I have any experience with that steel, and it's done surprisingly well. I mean, I don't know how I can compare it to. It's something like a stainless, like a higher quality D2. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's been times where I'm camping and I'm buzzing, and I chop up veggies and I forget to wipe it. And so hours later I remember and I'm like, oh no, and I go check and it's still looking good. It's not rusting or anything like that. So it definitely has a lot of corrosion resistance. And other than that, I mean, the knife, the fit and finish is outstanding. I have no complaints on the handle. The Kydex sheath is great. My only issue with the blade, and it's not really the blade's fault by any means, but it's just that traditional Puko Scandi knives are just flooded in the market right now. So this has some stiff competition from the more budget-friendly knives like Condor and Mora and BPS and Joker. And it's kind of reaching up there where, people are more likely to spend the money on an LT Wright knife or a Bark River, stuff like that. So this knife really runs the risk of being lost in the shuffle of the endless sea of bushcraft knives. So I hope this video makes it justice and shows how well it is versatile to all things outdoors. So if you're so inclined, I'll have the link down below where you can purchase one of these. And big thank you to Worktuff Gear for sending this to us. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up and comment down below if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. And we'll see you guys next week with another video. Now go outside and get your boots dirty.